You know, today I want to just go over this piece of gear I got. I haven't done any gear reviews in a while because I've gotten a little bit of new gear lately, but this new piece of gear that I got that I really dig, this Boss WAZA tube amp expander here. When I got it, I just got a new computer and it wasn't syncing up to my computer, so I had to figure out ways to do updates and stuff. And you know, it's a never-ending battle with this technology. So I finally got it to update and actually work with my computer now. So I feel like I can do a real full kind of investigation on it. So that's kind of what I want to do today, is talk a little bit about this, and also, you know, get into anything if there's anybody on here live. I see we got Nepali on here, and maybe some other folks will jump in. But this is a great unit, and there's tons of videos on it already. So if you're, you know, if you're looking at it, you've probably already seen a million videos on it. I'm just going to give you my opinion on it, and I've used it on a few gigs already, and I use it quite a bit at home here. And the main reason why I got them is because this amp here, which is an old vintage Marshall amp, doesn't have an effects loop. And it's pretty loud, you know. Nowadays people don't like you playing so loud in clubs, so I got to kind of keep the volume down a little bit. And it's, I mean, even on one, and when you just crack it open, it's totally raging. So I thought, well, I'll get an attenuator, which I had, which didn't quite work the way I wanted it to, and I could never quite get it to work with my setup that good. So I kind of bailed on the attenuator. And then I went on to the torpedo kind of captor setup or whatever that a lot of people have, and that was great. The only thing about that is I couldn't really use it live. It was more for a home studio kind of thing, so that was cool. But this kind of solves all those problems because, like I said, if you're hip to this thing, then you already know what it does. It's kind of, one side of it is kind of an attenuation for the amp live, and then the other part of it, maybe the more internal part of it, is, you know, the stuff that you could send to the front of the house, like an IR or a you know, cab sims and stuff like that. But what's cool about it is it has reverbs and delays built in. And, you know, if you don't have an effects loop on your amp and you need to attenuate it, like let's say an old 100-watt Marshall amp, man, those things are super loud, right? And you can't get them to sound real good until you get them right up to the sweet spot, you know, your settings. And usually by that time, they're so damn loud that everybody wants to, you know, beat you up or whatever. So this is a great solution for that, and it has an effects loop in it, so I don't need to use the internal effects. I could just use the effects loop and go like a 4-cable method, and it works great. I've done that before on a few gigs, and I've also used it as kind of a hybrid where I had a pedal board that was just hitting the front of the amp, and then my reverbs and delays and my solo boosts were internal to here. So if you're on, if anybody's on, say hi. And yeah, I'm just fooling around today. You know, just having some fun today. But I've been wanting to talk about this piece of gear here because I haven't done any gear reviews in a while. So, and there's a ton of stuff, but I'm just going to give you the short answer of what I think about it. It's pretty much knocking my socks off. I really love it because like right now, I can run this direct. It's just going directly into my Logic. Actually, it's plugged in through the USB of the thing, and it's acting as my audio interface. So my guitar is going into the amp's going into this. This is USB connected to my computer, and it's acting as my audio interface. As a matter of fact, if I bring up my Logic here, you'll be able to see, if I go to my preferences, see the WAZA tube amp expander. That's what that stands for. That is my audio interface. Okay, now you know, the thing that I've been waiting for to do a actual video on this is I was waiting for this software to get updated because I have a pretty new computer. And I had to actually update the software, and I had to update the unit, and I just finally figured this out. I've had this unit for like 6 months, and I haven't been able to do this till just the other day. Now what's cool about this is you can go into your different settings, like let's say if I want to go into my delay here And you can hear there's some delay on it, and I can control the parameters, like how much I want of the delay and the mix and all that stuff. It's also hooked up to a foot switch, which does tap tempo. So that's really cool too. So, and then there's also a solo boost on it. There's a reverb. Now the reverb you can control from the front of it here. But this is pretty handy, and I think that, I'm hoping anyway, as time goes on, Boss may start adding things to this. Like if they start adding like some modulation effects to this and kind of fill out this whole screen with some stuff, that would be awesome. But for what it is right now, you know, usually I don't run my, you know, things like modulation effects. I usually like to run those in front of the amp, except for maybe a chorus, which I really don't use that much anyway, to be honest with you. All right, we got another cat, David Vila. What's going on? Yeah. So this guy right here is kind of the all-in-one solution for this thing. So let me just give you a few tones off of it. Now, this is an old Marshall amp. It's not a high-gain amp. It's just kind of more of a good old-fashioned rock amp. And you're going to probably hear a little bit through my microphone here, too. Now, I've got a foot switch for it, which is cool. You can, for, you know, if you're going to use it live, you got this foot switch, and the foot switch has a boost. So if I hit that foot switch there, let me see if I can get this tangle thing going on here. There's my boost. Got a tap tempo, and it's connected to this. So it's pretty cool. So maybe I'll get rid of a little low end here. I don't have this thing quite dimed. So, but it sounds great, and I'm super pumped on it because I think the next step is I'm going to try to MIDI it, do a MIDI setup where I can just store different patches and connect my pedal board MIDI to this and get everything kind of working together and communicating and everything. But then, you know, really what's the most important thing, like functionally it's amazing. The only maybe downside is it's kind of another piece of gear you got to carry around, and it's got a little weight to it. It's a little bulky to carry around, but it's kind of worth it to me. So to be able to use this amp, these old amps to me are special, so I like to be able to use them. Now what you can do obviously is you can also go in here and mess with the speaker. So like let's say if I go into the speaker sim on this particular one, right now I'm using one of their internal speakers, but I did load a couple of my own IRs in here, which I think sound pretty good. So that one sounds pretty good. I kind of like just the old kind of one that's in here too. It's got a little bit more presence. And the delay and the reverb that you're hearing are coming from the Boss, so it's pretty cool. Now, another thing that's cool about it is that it's got direct outs. So it's got one line out that goes to the front of the house. You could just use that mono, but you could even run it stereo to front of house, and you can control how much you're sending to the front of the house here. But then if you want to turn up or turn down the volume on stage, that's a separate volume control, and it doesn't affect that. Unlike if you mic up an amp, right, and you put a mic in front of it and you go, you know, you get about 2 songs in and you go, oh man, the drummer's getting loud, man, I got to turn up. Well, you're turning up your amp, but you're also turning up your signal going to the front of the house, and sometimes that can frustrate your, you know, your sound men. So this is a great solution for that. So if I'm on stage and we got our line out going to the PA, stereo effects, stereo delays and everything, and we got a good level going on, but I need a little bit more on stage. I turn this volume and boom, I got my stage volume without messing with the sound man. That's a really great thing. Because man, sound man will chew you a new one, right? Or else they'll just get mad at you and pull the fader down or whatever. So, you know, you want to make a sound man your friend. Now this thing, you know, it's got some things like a compressor. I don't use compressors much, but I do have it on here because it actually, I don't know if I like it. I was just messing with it. I'm going to try it without it for a little bit. So you just write it. If you make some changes, you just write it, you know. But that's a pretty good tone. Bring up a little bit. Bring up a little bit more. This is maxed out gain. And you can't hear that in this room at all. And trust me, this amp is so loud. So I can only hear it in my headphones. I can play this amp and, you know, just tear it up at night. Nobody can hear me. I got the headphones on and I got this really cool Marshall tone in my head. So I really love this thing. Downsides to it, well, I think one of the downsides is this editor here. I wish it was, and I'm sure it'll get upgraded, you know, but I wish it was a little bit hipper. You know, it's a little 2005 or something. I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it seems like it could be a little bit cooler. And I'm guessing that updates will come and they'll probably keep working on this depending maybe on the popularity and everything. But I would really love it if they added, like they got a delay here, a reverb here. They've got a booster, line boost EQ, so you want a solo boost. Like if I go here, and now you can do this with the foot switch. I just have a straight up 4 dB boost. That's just for my solos. So that's without it. So that's pretty cool. That's actually really cool because, you know, when you have an amp like this that you have gain in it, if you hit it with a pedal, it just gets more gain. It doesn't necessarily give you a big volume boost. What you need is the volume boost is after the amp, and that's where this is. So it gives you a nice clean boost, and if you wanted to, you could even get in there and manipulate some of these EQs if you want to tweak your EQ just a little bit. So that is a great option. I love that. So. What's some other cool things about it? Well, like I said, it does have an effects loop in it. Now you can turn the effects loop on or off. And note to self, I used this a couple weeks ago, and I just used it without the foot switch. I used it with my normal pedal board, and I used the effects loop. And when I was first setting it up, I couldn't get it to work, and I was like, oh my God, what's going on? And then I realized, like, you have to actually turn the effects loop on. It took me a little bit to figure that out. But at the end of the day, I'm kind of really digging this unit up until this point. I bought it money out of my own pocket. It's not trying to sell anybody on anything. I just want to give you my honest opinion of it. And so far, so good. There is some things that I think will get better with time with this particular unit. But for live, you know, this unit gets compared to the aux box a lot, which I've never used, so I don't really know. But the only thing about the aux box is, from what I understand, is that does have effects in it, but it only goes to front of house. So your amp is still bone dry on stage, so you really don't have a sense of what those effects are sounding like out front. So this one here, the effects both they go to the front of the house, but they also go to your speaker cabinet, so you hear what's coming out. So that way you know if, like, wow, I got too much reverb or not enough, or too much delay or not enough. Now the downside of this is that the editor is necessary to get in there and tweak everything. So you have to kind of like set your rig up at home, or at least a small part of your rig or something, or some kind of scaled down version. And you got to get all your stuff wired then. And then if you get to the gig it's always kind of hard to tell because you're usually playing at different levels. You might be playing through a different cabinet or something like that. So in order to get in there and tweak those things, you need to use the editor. So, you know, I don't know how else to do that other than keeping it at home here. So when I'm out and about, if I do a gig with it and I'm not crazy about the way the delay is set or something, you're kind of stuck with it. Or maybe if you got your solo boost set up and the sound man says, can you give me a couple more dB on your solo boost? You're kind of like, no, not unless you have like a laptop computer with you, because that's really the only way you can get into the parameters is to hook it up to a computer. So maybe there could be some kind of menu thing on the front here where if you hold this button down and you turn this knob, it'll change that. Maybe that's there, I don't know. I always find these things out later on. But overall, great unit. Now, the thing that I really like about it as far as the sound goes, you know, like I said, I use those torpedo cabinet things and stuff, and they sound really good. I'm not putting them down. But they kind of lost a little bit of feel. It's kind of like, you know, when you got a pretty powerful amp going through a cabinet, you can feel that air being pushed, you know. You know, I didn't really feel that with the torpedo stuff. I feel it more with this. It's a little bit more realistic, because like right now, I'm only hearing this in my head. And there's there is a little bit of a feeling of the air is being pushed, and you can model different cabinets by turning these things, and there's a little guide on top here. So they thought of pretty much everything. The only thing they didn't think of is what if you're on a gig and you want to change something, you know. I see we got a few viewers here. That's why I keep looking up at the computer, but say hi if you're interested in this kind of stuff. I'm just kind of doing this because I haven't done a gear review in a long time, and I haven't done a live stream in a long time. So I thought I'd kind of just combine the two, you know what I'm saying? And this is really the only new piece of gear that I've gotten that I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about. And if you're not hip to these are super cool. You know, I think that from what I've heard other reviews and comparisons to say the aux box is that the aux box might be a little bit better for like studio recording, and this is more for live. But that's really what I wanted it for, was live. I wanted to, you know, have something that kind of solved the problems of this vintage amp. Now, you know, if you have like, let's say you got like a 20 watt kind of lunchbox amp, and you're playing a gig and you run out of headroom with it, if you use this has an internal amplifier, an internal 100 watt amplifier, so you can use this to boost a level of your 20 watt amp or your lower wattage amp. So it goes the other way too. It attenuates a loud amp, and it also will boost a quieter amp too. So I think it's a really great piece of gear. I wish, or maybe down the road they'll probably come up with a smaller version of it. I wish it was a little bit easier to lug around. It's a little heavy. It's got a power amp in it, so, and it's just got every connection you can think of in the back. Like I said, I have this connected to my computer. It's acting as my audio interface. All the effects that you're hearing are only from this, nothing from Logic or anything. So pretty darn cool. Now I'm going to back the gain down a little bit because this amp gets a little tubby with the, there we go. And that's just straight in. Now if I turn this up, you might hear it in the room a little bit. Yeah, you hear that in the room? Actually, I'll turn the Logic off here. You can just hear it. Now it's just in the room. It's coming through my lapel mic here. So that's what I mean. You got a whole separate volume. So super cool. And then I can just turn it off, and then I go back into my Logic and turn that track back on, and there it is. So I'm not going to stay in here all day. I just wanted to do a quick review of this. I love it. I think it's great. It's a little pricey. I won't deny. I bought it used, and it was still a pretty heavy price tag. And because I bought it used, I think maybe it had some presets in it, so it was usable. Whoever had it before me set it up, and I just recently got it to where I could connect my computer. So that's why I wanted to kind of give you my review of it. So anyway, great to see everybody. I'm out. Cheers.